It's quite nice because you get to a certain point. Our kids are now slightly at the age where, despite my best efforts, I'm not as embarrassing as I used to be.
So how old were they when you did Strictly, though? How old were the kids then?
Then was terrible. So our youngest daughter was 13.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my word.
Fucking hell, Ed.
So oldest one was like 17 and 15.
Oh, no.
17 and 15-year-old ones were able to come to the show.
Yeah.
We've been incredibly careful, because we were both in politics, to keep them always separate from us. So there was never photos of them. They sat separately from Yvette on the live show so that nobody could have pictures of them, but they were able to be part of it. But our 13-year-old...
Just too much shame, didn't want to come.
No, she wasn't allowed to because they had this insurance order. You couldn't go to year 14. So she was not allowed to come. She wasn't able. Therefore, that's multiplied the embarrassment of the whole thing. And, Dad's supposed to be embarrassing. I just massively overachieved in that autumn.
Yeah.
You did it all at once.
Did you consult them before you did it?
I don't think I...
Not Gangnam Style, I mean the show.
Like Psy. I'm telling him as well.
No. I mean, to be honest, I was against doing it, but Yvette was the person who said do it. So that's why I did it. Oh. She said, you've lost your seat, you've lost your job. What else is there to lose?
Jesus.
You're not bringing anything into the house.
Yeah. No, she said politics is wild, go into it. And I then rang Jeremy Vine, who'd been on it the year before, and he said it was the best thing I've ever done. It was the most life-affirming thing. He said, Eddie said, if you ever want to be governor of the Bank of England, it might knock that on the head, but other than that, go and enjoy it.
Yeah. And
he said his kids had enjoyed it. And I think actually, in the end, mine did. I was banned, though, from going to parents' evening for 2 years after Strictly.
So that's a carrot that for me to dangle.
I know, but I'm saying, because see, the complication for our kids had been, I was Secretary of State for schools, for education for 2007, 2010. So if I ever went to parents' evening, the head teacher was always quite keen to come and say hello, which was always a bit embarrassing. If you're 11 or 12, the Secretary of State's here. So I was told that I was allowed to come, but never in a suit. You've got to come wearing casual clothes. That was fine until Strictly. On Strictly, you're suddenly not in a suit. So I was just entirely banned. You just can't come at all. So Yvette had to go and then make notes.
I think the only reason I'd end up going on Strictly would be my children demanding it. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
I can't see that happening.
No, I can't see that.
Not at 13, 15 and 17.
But I think it's what started your next career in a way, is it? What did you say?
Oh, it definitely changes things. It definitely does. But in a sort of... in a way which is simultaneously good and worrying. Because the thing people would always say to me is, after Strictly, I mean, in the street, I even get it now. People come up to me and say, are you Ed Balls? And I'll say yes. And they'll say, I used to really, really hate you. They say, but I don't anymore. And you sort of think, okay, I mean, I know you mean that nicely. But then the other thing is that they'd say, we always knew you were a politician. It's good to see you've now become a human being. And actually, the idea of politicians not being human beings is kind of like a dangerous thing, because in a democracy, if the non-human people are the only ones who are willing to be politicians, what kind of democracy do you end up with? So it's always worried me a bit.
Well, the one we've got at the moment, I think.
Well, I know. There's this big prism of glass, which is really thick, called being a politician. And what Strictly let me do was step outside of it for a bit. And so people see you in a different way, maybe in a more clear way. I don't know. The other thing I learned was that you had to... put yourself aside and just go into character. And that's the bit I really liked about it. I learned something I'd never done in my life. If you're a politician, in some ways it's the same for you guys. It's always you on stage. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're an actor, you put yourself to one side and play a character, a role with a costume and everything else.
Yeah. You don't take it too personally because you're one step away.
And I'd never done that before in my life. So I realised this is what I had to do. So they said to me, third week, actually we had a problem. In the third week, I was supposed to do Great Balls of Fire for movie week. But the trouble was, Yvette says to me, on the way home on the Saturday night, about 1 a.m, she went on Wikipedia. She said, you do realise you're supposed to play Great Balls of Fire. They wanted it because of Flaming Piano. She said, but that means you're Jerry Lee Lewis. And he, in the film, marries his 12-year-old cousin. So I think that makes you the paedophile and Katya the 12-year-old. And I'm not sure this is a good look. So we decided this was a bad idea. So I rang them and said, I don't think I can do Great Balls of Fire. So then they said, in that case, how about doing The Mask? And I thought, well, only if I can have a green face. And it was the best thing I ever did. The following week was Paso Doble, where they asked me, I was basically dressed as a pearly queen. And I couldn't work out, because they'd said to me, you've got to be macho, because Paso Doble is really macho. But when I did it in rehearsal, in front of all the producers, they just all fell about laughing and said it was the most camp Paso Doble anybody's ever done. So I kept trying to think, what is the macho camp figure? So I said, can I be Adamant? But there was copyright issues.
Right.
So then I said, can I be the dad from The Incredibles? Because he's sort of camp and macho.
Yeah.
I never got it right. It was a catastrophe. It was a total disaster.
Well, you sound like you was really into it. I imagine I'd just turn up and be told what to do and got dressed and sent out, but it feels like you were like involved in it.
You have to rehearse for 40 hours a week.
Oh, that's too much.
No.
If you don't do the rehearsal, you just collapse because it's really hard to get it all in your head.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Anyway, the kids thought it was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Which Prime Minister would you prefer as your parent?
As my parent, that is a really...
Oh, no, let's just do it another way. You've got to leave your kids with one of our Prime Ministers for the week. Who do you think is going to be the biggest laugh?
God, biggest laugh.
No laugh. That's it.
Or just the best parent?
I think Gordon Brown would have been very focused on my moral direction. But I'm not sure if I would say that necessarily makes him the most fun.
No, but if you had to leave your kids, they're 8, 9 and 12 for the week with one of the Prime Ministers.
I mean, I would have said David Cameron might be quite fun, but he left his kids in a pub. Do you remember? Didn't he leave his daughter in a pub and drive off with a Chinese Prime Minister? So he's out.
Boris?
He'll just think there is. There's a few of them.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't think they are his, but no, definitely not Boris. Can you imagine? Think how much damage could be done in that short period of time.
Tony Blair?
I think Tony Blair would be.
Liz Truss.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Liz Truss. She was the Prime Minister for a bit.
Truss. Oh my! She's just done an interview about how she failed because of a left-wing establishment conspiracy, and the left-wing establishment includes the Bank of England and the Office for Budget Responsibility. You think if that's left-wing, oh my God! So no, she's out. I'm actually struggling a bit here.
You're going Rishi?
I think I might go Tony Blair. I might go
Tony Blair.
Rishi.
I'd argue, though, anyone that gets to that level of their job, surely being a parent's not high in the priority. You've got to be completely obsessed with that position and progress to get there. Surely you've got to put yourself before being a parent to get to that highest level. Or can you do both?
I don't think you would ever speak to anybody who's done politics who doesn't say, I look back and regret that I didn't spend more time with my kids, and there's times when...
Alistair Campbell said that to us.
Well, that's exactly right. And the priority, the imperative. And I think one of the really important things that Yvette and I had, because we were both in it, was we were both really good at understanding when the other person had to deal with a real problem. And so you just say, you've got to do that, and I'm taking the kids to Pizza Express or whatever. But also calling out bullshit. So if it was actually not real, and you could say... You don't need to do that. That's not a priority. We should put the family first. And we were kind of good at policing ourselves to try and make sure we put the family right. But I think that all the Prime Ministers I've known have really worried about it and cared about it. Gordon Brown, totally devoted to his kids. I think the same was true with David Cameron, with Tony Blair as well. I'm sure it's true of Rishi Sunak. And because of the fact that they will be worrying about getting it wrong...
Just skip Boris, though.
Oh, he doesn't even know who his kids are. Well, George Osborne's saying to me, he and David Cameron tried to get Boris Johnson to come back into the cabinet, but he couldn't afford it. His alimony, his child support list was so big, it was so expensive. I mean, I don't think anybody knows.
Maybe he's doing the ultimate what you're doing. You have never named your kids or photographed them. If he doesn't know who they are, then they can never be in the paper. Maybe he's doing it right.
I know, that's taking it to another level. I know, but at least I do know, who our kids are. I mean, I've definitely got a handle on that.
If we got him on this, it'll be a short start. Yeah.